Sports Talk 1080, the team Orlando's Tuck and O'Neill with Mike Tuck. I'm Jerry O'Neill. Football season. I wear the headsets. These are Chinese made, by the way. So if they break during the middle, well, I got another pair in the closet. But it's to keep you from focusing on the 20-year-old polo I'm wearing to work today. Mike, Jeremy Fowler, who used to
You might not
write,
want to point it out if you don't want them to focus on
yeah,
it.
don't do that. Jeremy Fowler wrote, I won't call it a scathing, lengthy ESPN The Magazine article. It was online at ESPN.com. Used to know him when he worked for the Orlando Sentinel here in town. What did you make of that long, lengthy article revisiting Urban Meyer's days and his dissolvement as the head coach at Florida?
Well, I found it interesting, a look into what was a kind of a miniature dynasty as far as sports are concerned in college football. It's very hard to have one, but a lot of personalities there with Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow and all the players, getting kind of an inside the locker room look at what was going on at Florida. And we always have suspicions, I think, with college athletics especially, high level, that you're going to have bending of rules and that sort of thing going on. So we got kind of a glimpse into some of those kind of things that took place in that Florida locker room, and Aaron Hernandez, another part of that locker room. So I just found it interesting, kind of a peek in. It would have been more interesting, obviously, if they would have gotten Meyer on the record, if they would have gotten Tebow on the record. Hell, even Aaron Hernandez on the record would have been interesting. But,
he's not allowed visitors.
There are logistics that we understand that they couldn't do all that. But I found it interesting. I wasn't taken aback by anything, though.
No, and, I've talked with people, too, who have been in these locker rooms, even as of late, former players themselves, who read this article, who said very little is different from the one they were in. A high-profile player, maybe the quarterback, star offensive player who gets most of the publicity. There's some obvious jealousy. They're a good teammate. They're a good leader, but there are multiple. But, Tim Tebow and the Florida Gators are what you think of during that era. And you can't overlook, and this isn't the case with every program, but in this one and in many across America, college football programs, a coach has total control. Urban Meyer has total control. And in his wake are people who will not like him, whether that's some players, whether that is some administrators, whether that's some fans. But that is not what moves his meter. He is trying with his own psychology and motivational tactics to try to get his team to play to a peak level. And there are some characters in and amongst the Florida Gator revisit, as there are in teams across America.
Yeah, in any successful business or endeavor, you're going to have kind of conflicting personalities, aren't you? And you see sometimes where you have to bend to certain people, and at times it's going to alienate others within that, and it causes friction and ultimately the undoing of the Gator program, if you will, as it was kind of labeled. It was interesting to see the rise and the fall, and even to look back and remember some of the personalities and the people, the players, the talent, the coaches. I mean, goodness, what a coaching tree that came out of that group. So it was a nice look back. I'm sure at some point they'll do another one because, let's face it, Urban Meyer's a draw, Tim Tebow is a draw. That's going to be a draw, much like some other teams of the past that we're still going to have interest in a decade or 2 decades later.
And let's be honest, whether it's Gator fans or others, are led to believe that we'll watch Urban Meyer at Ohio State and see similar patterns, and I don't buy that. I don't live there. I don't look to this possibly will happen. Let's let it play out. Let this guy live his life. If there's one thing that's pretty obvious, it's that Urban Meyer can coach college football.
Now, we'll see if he doesn't burn out. I mean, certainly we say it about a guy like Larry Brown all the time, and he's only going to be here for a few years before he'll eventually burn out and go somewhere else and have great success.
But his track record showcases that.
You kind of have to, well, in Urban Meyer early on here, the track record is showing that with his success leave.
Last thing, that's moving up and moving on.
Oh, I understand. I'm just saying, the only way sometimes you can prove people wrong on something like that, to stick around at Ohio State for a decade and win.
We will follow that story, but we've got day-to-day college football, NFL football talk right here. 3 to 6 weekdays. Sports Talk 1080 The Team Orlando.